1 second. Maybe Nelson, you have something to say?
No, that was a good. I've been studying this, of course, for decades, like you. I'm not as much of an expert on it as you are, but I'm actually. I had a question. I don't know if you want me to get into it right now, but if there's a question, something I've been pondering. If you look at Numbers 25, the story of Phineas. Phineas was given because he took the spear and slew that Moabite woman and stopped the plague of Israel. He was given by God a everlasting priesthood and a covenant of peace, which means there's got to be relatives of Phineas who are alive today. I'm just wondering if you've ever thought about that and if you've been able to trace them.
No. Phineas in Hebrew is pronounced Pinchas. He was a Cohen. The Cohen is one of the priestly class. The Cohens amongst the Jews often quite learned, very learned. They also give a blessing in the synagogue. They give the priestly blessing, which is also in the book of Numbers. In Israel, they give it every day. Outside of Israel, they give it only on feast days. But in Israel, every day the priests give their blessing in the synagogue to the community, in as part of the daily prayers. And on the whole, people from the Cohens often learned like the rest of the tribe of Levi. And they do give direction to the Jewish people. But that is the Cohens in general. I don't know. I assume that some of them know that they relate back to Pinchas, to Phineas, they relate back to him, and probably proud of it, and they probably have characteristics of their own, but I haven't heard of them.
Okay, thank you.
But I know that very often, like I had articles on this, discussions showing or proving it, that amongst the Jews, you have Jews who learn. You have Jews like in my city. In my Jews, a lot of people in my city, good portion of the population learn. Some of the men learn about 40. So I'd say about 40% of the men learn all day long. And some of them also learn and work. Some of them are part-time jobs, and the wives also often work. They work more than the national average, and somehow they all get by. They manage to support themselves and raise large families. And amongst them, you have all Jews are counted amongst them. As I said before, I have a good portion of those who are predominant turn out to be Levites, turn out to be Cohanim. And there's no rule that says it has to be this way. Any Jew who wants to learn can go and learn. And a lot of them do learn. And this is the way it goes. This is the way it goes approximately. You have, say, you have 100 Jews. So 100 Jews. And I'd say 1,000 Jews. 1,000 Jews, and out of those Jews, say 100 to go and learn. And out of those who go and learn, 10 are Cohanim or Levites, yeah. And they go and learn, or they grow up in this, they grow up in religious institutions and yeshivas and so on. And then in the course of time, a lot of them drop out, go and work, and move over to other things. So you get the proportion of Levites and Cohanim a little bit higher. Maybe instead of 10%, it should be 12%. Between 10 to 15% are still Levites, are still there in the book. Yeah. And everyone who learns, a lot of people learn, Jews who learn, they write books. They publish the books, or even self-publish the books, give them out, sell them to their friends, and whatever, they write books, and some of these books become accepted, become authoritative. And there's no limitation. Anyone can write a book. Yeah, anyone can sell a book, and they do. Everyone does sell a book. Only certain books become authoritative. Or amongst those who learn and become rabbis, certain rabbis are known as are respected as being able to tell us what the law is, how the law should be, to decide difficult questions. And this comes from who they are. And when you check out the names, you get about 2 or 3 times a higher proportion of people from the tribe of Levi or Cohanim who are there. And this is also hinted at in Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17, the Almighty said, Deuteronomy 17, you have a problem about the law, how the law should be. You should get up and go to the judge, to the Cohen and the Levium, and the judge who will be in those days. Okay, so in Hebrew, in English it's sometimes translated a little bit differently, but in Hebrew the simple meaning is you will go to the Cohen, you will go to the Levi, and you will go to the judge. And this is not a commandment, this is a description of a reality, or social reality, and that's what we find on the whole. We find this is saying in effect that a normal situation would be that the people you have to go to will be able to decide things. One will be a Cohen, another will be a Levite, the third one will be an ordinary Israelite. And this is similar to what we find in reality. So this also is proving the truth of the Torah that the Almighty saw in events when he gave this law, that this is what the situation would be, and that is what the situation is. So I didn't really answer your question, but that's in the general direction.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. That's
we don't really know. I imagine, I assume.
Yeah, I'm a Cohen myself. I'm a Cohen.
Okay. And very nice. A lot of Cohenim are fanatics, very zealous. We also had the Rabbi Meir Kahana. He was a very zealous Jew, the Jewish Defense League, and he was a Cohen. Kahana means Cohen. And we had others like him. And whatever you think of him, you cannot deny he was very zealous. He was he had the quality of Pinchas. It doesn't mean that he applied them in the right direction, but he had them. So this is a known phenomenon. So you want to say something, Joseph?
Yes, it's interesting. It's related to Pinchas. Everyone in his life has a proof given to his own speech, to his own thought. And Yair said that he was very zealous, and today we would say radical, but there were 2. We have Levi and Shimon. And in your story, it's interesting. There were fighting for a good thing. We see in the first chapter of the Torah, of the first book, and then later comes the proof if the fight was really fighting for real interests or for themselves. And your story is the proof. And we have 2 of the both. Shimon was a bad guy, and Levi was the real zealous with a good intention. And this is interesting. This is also what the lost 10 tribes will stand at the end, and it's a proof. In one hand, they made a mistake in a very long time ago. And now it's a chance. It's a real chance to show what is the tikkun, the real meaning of come back. And this is the real chance today we are facing.
You're right. Part of the coming back, part of return is also coming back to ourselves, finding out what tribe we belong to. And trying to realize our tribal heritage. And this is important and it's worth doing. And even if you make a mistake or you change your mind, or you've got certain options, maybe on this, maybe on that, it's also part of the process. It's all for a reason and it all can help us. It's interesting talking about Levi and Simeon. It says Simeon and Levi were brothers. And they were all brothers. So what does it say Simeon and Levi were brothers? Because they shared certain characteristics. And Jacob said, I will scatter them. I will divide them up in Israel. I will scatter them throughout the rest of Israel. And so the Levites were scattered throughout Israel. They didn't receive their own territory, but they received settlements scattered through all the rest of Israel until they all came back to Judah later. And apparently Simeon also was scattered through the rest of Israel. We found the elements from Simeon amongst peoples we associate with lost and tribes. We find that in some places there are more than others. We find them in Ireland. We find them maybe in Wales, in Brittany, in France. And here and there, amongst peoples who came through Germany, we also find Simoni, people with names recalling Simeon. And I noticed amongst in the land of Israel, apart from people from the tribe of Levi and Torah, you also get a lot of others who are not necessarily religious, but they seem to be prominent in the army and in the police. And that was the tools of violence will be their weapons of trade in the Hebrew. That's what it says concerning Simeon, maybe. And also, we had the impression that a lot of people from Simeon were in Ireland, and they moved to America. In America, you have more people of Irish descent than you have in Ireland, maybe 10 times more or more than that. And for a good period of time, and even today, the policemen in a lot of cities of America were dominated by the Irish. And then in ancient times in the land of Israel, the Levites had played the role of teaching others and also acting as policemen for the courts. So, Bob Simeon Levi, that was another one of their tasks. They were policemen. And it could be that a lot of many of the Irish descended from Simeon, and that's how they took over the American police forces, and also lawyers. A lot of lawyers in America are of Irish descent, and they know it and they're conscious of it. But also there were people from the tribe of Dan, and Dan also in tradition was into liquidation to courts and so on, to legal matters. So that also could explain why in the USA a lot of lawyers and legal workers are of Irish descent. Anyway, that's and at all events, all these studies are interesting, and they can be backed up with statistics and articles about them with nothing to do with religion, just pointing out these same facts, confirming what we are saying. And this indicates that we are on the right track, and at least in most things, possibly in all, because the Almighty is directing us to some degree. And we have a good track record so far, and this is a work of the Almighty. And so part of it is also realizing what tribes we belong to, I belong to, and what other tribes other peoples belong to, and the characteristics of the tribes. This is of interest. Do you have something to say, Nelson? I can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, I had my DNA done at Family Tree DNA and down to the 111th modal type. And so on both sides of my family, I had my father done and I had my grandfathers done. And they were all the JM267 Cohen modal haplotypes. So that's how I was able to scientifically get into it. Of course, there were a lot of indications beforehand from names in the family, etc., that we were Cohens. So I find that that was what I found very interesting. And of course, in reading Numbers 25, I found it very interesting that because of Phineas's action, and he pushed back the anger of the Lord, and as a result, he was given that unique blessing of a covenant of peace and an everlasting priesthood he was given. And I found that interesting because obviously descendants of Phineas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, obviously those descendants are alive today because that's an everlasting blessing God gave in Numbers 25. I find that very interesting because I wonder how many Cohens on the earth today are descendants of Phineas and know this.
Yeah, you're right. They say that between 8 and 10% of the Jewish people are from Levi,
Are Cohen's?
including Cohens or Levites. They're both from the same tribe of Levi, and a slightly greater proportion of them are religious or observant or ultra orthodox. But there are also others who are not. But it's interesting. It's also interesting that the Cohens have certain limitations. Say, for instance, a Cohen, if he's a member of the Jewish religion, he cannot marry a divorced woman. Or he should not go in a graveyard. Not even if someone is a Cohen and he wasn't religious, he was the opposite of religious, but he wouldn't go in a graveyard.
Yeah, you're not to be in the same room.
What?
A Cohen's not to be in the same room with a dead body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but actually, the Cohens, one part of their task was to determine if a person was sick, or if it was a divine plague, a divine visitation, or was a natural phenomenon.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So the Rambam says they had to be experts in medical matters, if only for that.
Interesting.
And I knew Cohens, and someone who was a Cohen, and he said he's a Cohen, knows other people are Cohen. And they're forbidden to be doctors. It was very difficult for them to be doctors, but they have an urge to involve themselves with medical matters. So it was a contradiction, as if to say he was faced with.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, these things are interesting, and the reality. This is a certain aspect of reality which is worth knowing. We should all try and find out who we belong to, or which tribes we have a tendency towards. I don't know. I had 3 or 4. I cut it down to 3 or 4, which is about 1/3, which is a lot. And I'm not even certain of them. Sometimes the thing you overlook is the one you should have been looked into. That also happens in life. So that's what we have. What do you say, Yosef?
Yeah, I will come back to what you say, that everything, even we in our sins have a task in the future. And it's very interesting when we look to the 10 lost tribes, and it's a little bit for you. You are Cohen. You have signs for yourself, but most of the lost 10 tribes are really from the brothers, from Jewish brothers, and from all the world, not aware that they are existing. That is a great task of Yair Davidiy since a long time. He make it public, but I think if we see the first exile of Joseph, it's an example. He was not visible for his brothers. His brothers thought he is not living, and in Egypt he was a slave, a Hebrew slave.
That's right. So he recognized his brothers, and his brothers did not recognize him.
Yes. Exactly, and also for the Egypts, he wasn't a slave, so not relevant at all. But Joseph came to the back door into Egypt to change the political climate, that the brothers can come and survive from the famine. So today we have exactly the same thing. The 10 lost tribes came to the back door as Hebrew slaves, lost their identity. No one could say that these are Israelites. So now we see that these Israelites have changed so many things in politics and climate politics that political climates, not the climate change in that idea, so that the salvation, the Geula, the redemption should come more easier. This is a special task what the Israelites have. The lost 10 tribes came like Joseph through the back door, and now should be the second witness of the Torah for the God of Israel. And it's important because if you look today into religious affairs, even in Judaism, it's a problematic situation that all religions went together in this way, but the Israelite identity and the Israel task is forgotten today. It's not relevant, and the Jews were all the time the only one to represent this obvious way, and now we are waiting that the lost 10 tribes are coming back and representing the second witness and return on this way to reunited Israel.
And so it's interesting, in Isaiah 66, in the last verses of Isaiah 66, he's talking about the Messiah and how the Messiah will have fought against Gog and Magog and fought against the pagan nations of the world. And then at the end of times, they will, those amongst them from the 10 tribes or descendants from Judah will be divided from out of them and shall return. And the peoples amongst whom they live will know that their neighbors belong to the 10 tribes, a part of the tribes, a part of the Israelite nation, and they will enable their neighbors, their Israelite neighbors, who they before they did not know they were Israelites, to return to the Israelite nation, to reconnect with them. And it says also from them I will take for to be Cohens and Levites. This is apparently referring to their ancestry. So there will be Cohens and Levites amongst the Gentiles. And in the end times, they shall be separated, divided out, and they shall return to the main body of the Israelite nation. So Isaiah speaks of this, and it ties in with what we're speaking about. And also what we're speaking about, the Rambam takes what happens with the tribe of Levi as a prototype of what will happen for all of the tribes. It says that the Messiah will separate, and Zechariah will separate the Cohens and the Levites, and he will purify them and tell them who belongs to the tribe of Levi and who does not. And this is expressed in such a way that we understand it not only from the tribe of Levi, but also from all of the tribes. So the Messiah will institute some process in the end times whereby every person will be able to know which Israelite tribe he belongs to. And if he doesn't, somehow or other he came in, paternally he doesn't belong to any of the tribes, but he will be accepted as part of the tribe he dwells amongst. He will inherit a portion of the land alongside them. So that is worth knowing, and these points are worth remembering, and we should all try and do as best we can, because God Almighty rewards those who endeavor to do what they can, and He shows them the way. And the political situation.
Yeah, the political situation is a difficult situation, because in my point of view, we have lost many good choices to go to the better way that we have today. And if you're looking to how many many times we went to vote in Israel. This is the fifth time in short time. It's a sign that we are not on the good way. And the second point is that we are connected in many things to the intention of the nation, the 70 nations, and that is also not a good thing. We have joined the Agenda 2030, and it's intended to be without nationality and without religious identities that will make politically Jewish nationalism irrelevant and Jewish identity irrelevant. And it's very dangerous to think about. And this is the way we have to face today. And even the good right-wing leaders have signed the contracts with the 70 nations. So this is not the good way we can expect good things. And if you look we cannot skip Gog and Magog. This will come to us, but we can choose the way how it will face, or when all Israelis come together and living in peace and don't think about war, and then will come Gog and Magog, and even Israel had not to fight. Or the other situation is mentioned in Zechariah chapter 12. And this will be a very hard situation when all the people come together and only Judah is there. This is our situation. And whereas Ephraim, I ask all the time, in this chapter is not mentioned Ephraim, only the maybe said the Mashiach ben Yosef, or the Talmud said the Mashiach ben Yosef will be or could be killed in the future war. Okay. So this is what we will face. Sephardi Jews are praying that this will not happen, but it's we have many conditions. Or we have to see it conditionally to our behavior.
Okay, very good. Nelson, you want to say something? Would you like to say something?
Hang on. Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, and I appreciate your what you said. I find it very interesting, and I didn't know about this thing that the right wing signed. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm not familiar with that you said they agreed to.
Yeah, it's very simple. If you go to Israel and signing the Agenda 2030, it's Agenda 2030 is agenda of the New World Order. It's not, it's official, they are talking about this. It's not something hidden. We can mention it loudly. And 2019, Netanyahu and his government had signed this agenda. So if you go deeper,
and that agenda says what? I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's very important because the agenda has 17 points to go together and realize all problems we have. And this is a world view, but not a religious view. In order to come together is to come to one people, and they call it a global citizenship. And we have no global citizenship. We have 70 nations, as Yair Davidiy described, and Israel. And we cannot mix this together. So you see it in all the way. Germans have to give up German identity to become Europe identity, and step by step, the next will be one global citizen, one global government, and that is irrelevant if we have politics or people in
Well,
religion.
that certainly is something.
Yeah, this is happening today.
Okay. May you find may with the lost ten tribes be found. May we all find ourselves. May we find the God of Israel, and may he direct us, keep us close to him, and lead us along the right track. All us and our families and all the peoples of Israel. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Nice to meet you, Joseph. Thanks, Sierra, again.
Yeah,
Just
nice,
wonderful. Well,
nice to meet you also.
Very worthwhile. Terrific.
Thank you, Yair.
Thank you too. Bye.